metropolitan New York City! Hip and this is Hip!
Yes. Hello. Good evening, or good morning, good afternoon, whenever you might be listening. That's right. It is H&L, of course, New York Sports Podcast, as the Hip does a imitation of my opening, as always. All right. Well, it has been a few weeks since we have been with you. My apologies for that. That would be my fault. A little scheduling snafu in the worst possible time of year. So much going on. So many stories, so many things to be excited about here in our fair city, and so many things to, I don't know, maybe should be shedding a few tears about, as the New York Football Giants have called both myself and the Hip and asked if we can play wide receiver for them. Whereas the Jets have Jet fans crying because they don't suck. And we wanted them to suck. Oh, well, that's a shame. And, of course, the New York Yankees. How about those fellas? In a Game 5 against the Cleveland Indians. Who would have thought? And the Islanders and Rangers have started, and the Knicks start a week from Thursday. What do you say, Mr. Hip? Too much.
Got all that? Oh, gosh. But most importantly, Victor Cruz will apparently not be re-signed by the New York Giants.
Oh, what a shock. Well, that ended really well. He was...
or Mario Manningham.
Mario Manningham. Where is he? If only Kevin realized that he's still sucked in Carolina. Maybe the Giants could have picked up Devin, of course, the other Michigan wide receiver. How about Mike Hart? How about maybe seeing Mike Hart can play wide receiver? Oh, yeah. Well, Brown Edwards. How about Brown Edwards? Where's he? What's he up to now? He played for a New York football team before. Maybe they can scrape him off the waiver wire. Or Terrell Owens called the Giants and said, "Hey, I'm still available. I'm still out here. I'm only 44 years old. I haven't made the Hall of Fame yet. Pick me.
There's been a lot that has transpired in sports since our last show. Kneeling, standing,
kneeling and standing. As the NFL scrambles, chasing its tail.
This thing quite some time. Goodell issuing a letter to the owners today, basically saying, we are going to side with you owners because we need to make you money, and that's what we really just ultimately care about. So, yes, we are a New York Sports Podcast, and we're going to get to some Yankees, to some Giants, to some Jets, maybe a little sprinkle of Rangers Islanders action. Well, let's get right to the Yankees because it's an elimination. Their second elimination game this year is tomorrow night, having survived their first elimination game with their starting pitcher getting pulled in the first inning of the game.
Actually, three. They played 3 elimination games now.
Excuse me, thank you. 3 elimination games, yes, thank you.
Technically, wild card.
Yes.
And then the 2 games that they just played, which I was actually a spectator at last night at the stadium in Game 4. That's right.
And that's the one I didn't include, and and the reason why is I'm thinking of games where the loser is out for the year and the winner moves on. But yes, technically, last night's game for the Yankees was an elimination game for them, and they have survived those 2. And
wild card too, that counts. 3 elimination games.
They were down 2-0. Yep. Okay. We need the Hip needs a math lesson at the beginning of the show. It seems.
A mathematics major you were as well. Were you not?
No, it's very complicated parabola equations. So
was that a pre-cal term? I slept through that one.
Luis Severino pulled after 1 out in the first inning, getting hit hard by the Twins. Clearly didn't have his stuff, wasn't getting ahead in the count. They were sitting on his fastball. He was just getting hit hard. And give Girardi credit for taking him out of the game before it really got out of hand. It looked like a 7 or 8 spot. And the bullpen took over. And, Chad Green, David Robertson did their thing, let the Yankees, come back on Santana methodically. And just like that, move on to the wild card against the Cleveland Indians, one of 2 favorites to be in the ALCS with the Houston Astros, with a stacked team from top to bottom in the World Series last year, looking to game 7 and looking to go the distance this year. And Nike's looking like in deep trouble after the first 2 games.
Well,
And then
game two, everybody wanted to run Girardi out of town, and he was booed mercilessly in game right before game three. So poor Joe Girardi, who trying to, I guess, redeem himself after being lauded for his use of the bullpen in the Minnesota game. But we'll get to that game too. I mean, we have to at least touch on it, even though it's been exhausted and beaten down. What happened in game two. I don't know if you watched that whole thing. I mean, I pretty much watched that whole game from start to finish, game two, and I tell you, it's a good thing I had a few bitter hipster beers, because that was a tough one to swallow. But at least I had the bitter hipster beers to help it go down. Just a spoonful of bitter hipster beer makes the medicine go down.
Are you focusing on the hit by the hit batsman that the Yankees didn't challenge?
Oh, that play. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one too. I thought you were just going to say the poor decision by Joe Girardi to yank CC Sabathia, now tomorrow's Game 5 starter, out of the game as early as he did. Of course, not nearly as bad as Dusty yanking Max Scherzer yesterday, as Max Scherzer, I think, wanted to burn a hole through him. If you saw his reaction as he walked off the mound saying, "I let up one damn hit and you're taking me out of the game." I mean, the Yankees, game one, they had nothing offensively. Game two, they knock around Corey Kluber, who's going to be pitching tomorrow. And now the Yankees can at least go into that game tomorrow with a little confidence, having knocked around the most likely Cy Young Award winner in the AL. And to have a 5-run lead and to see it evaporate the way it did, obviously the whole thing with the non-challenge from Mr. Girardi, the grand slam that occurred on the very next batter, and then Jay Bruce, of course, former Met, Jay Bruce, almost a Yankee, as Yankee fans chanted Jay Bruce sucks last night every at-bat. I don't know if that's more you hurt us in the first two games, we don't like you, if that's more you should have been on our team and the Mets didn't trade you to us, so we blame you for that, even though it's not his fault. So Jay Bruce with the game-tying home run, and then, they went 13 innings. The Yankees' bats went to sleep, and the Indians were able to scratch across a run to win the game off Betances, who pitched really well, and then yesterday couldn't find the plate again. So the question will be tomorrow if Dellin Betances will even be considered by Joe Girardi in a tight game at the in the latter part of the game. So, look, if you're a Yankee fan, you have to be ecstatic right now with where the Yankees are. Again, being at the game yesterday, I thought the atmosphere was really good. It wasn't, for those that are like, oh, the atmosphere was so electric. You know what? It's almost impossible for you to have the atmosphere like you did at the old Yankee Stadium in that awful ballpark that they play in. The fans were as good as, they were being as loud as they possibly could, but it does not have the feel of the old stadium. But anybody that says that it comes close, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But the Yankees last night, with their bats doing the talking in the early going, Severino redeemed himself with a good game. Not a great game, but was obviously much, much better. Pitched 7 innings, and then Canley was able to close it out with the 2 innings after Betances again couldn't find the plate. Judge with a big hit. Sanchez the home run. Frazier finally gets the bats going. Cleveland can't play defense all of a sudden, and they can't get anything offensively out of certain key guys. And they're missing Encarnacion, which has really hurt them. So the juggernaut Indians, with their amazing manager, Terry Francona, who, if you ask Mike Francesa, will tell you he's the best manager of all time. Oh, Terry Francona. Oh, he's so amazing. But and he's a great man. I love Terry. I talked about this on the podcast last year when they win the World Series. I love Terry. I rooted for him hard last year. Of course, not rooting for him now, but the Indians on the brink, and the Yankees have them on the ropes. And the Yankees right now playing really with nothing to lose. I mean, with that youthful exuberance, just the fact that they defied all expectations. They shouldn't be here, but hey, we are. And you know what? We can now enjoy it, have fun with it, while the Indians have the weight of the world on them, knowing that they had one mission, World Series or bust, after getting to Game 7 last year. So that is where we are. Anything that has stuck out to you in this series so far, Mr. Hip, as I ramble on?
Yes. Trevor Bauer getting the start for Game 1. That was mind-boggling to me.
No, Kluber just said he wanted to pitch on full rest in Game 5. I guess that was, and it worked at least Game 1. It didn't work last night.
Yeah, but exactly. Why would you even need to plan for Game 5 if you could put your best pitchers up earlier in the series? Trevor Bauer is an average pitcher. Yes, he silenced the Yankees bats in Game 1, and fine. It's easy to validate the decision to do it, but you got the other side of Trevor Bauer last night, and hittable like he often is. And so I just was shocked when I saw it. I'm like thinking it's got to be Carrasco or Kluber. What are you doing? Starting Trevor Bauer for game one. Look, I haven't investigated it. I haven't read about why they may have done that, but just on the surface, it made absolutely no sense to me.
I mean, I think it was just because Kluber said he would, because he wasn't going to pitch Kluber on short rest. I don't think he wanted to do that. It didn't work last year in Game 7. Kluber got knocked around. I don't think he wanted to do that. So he said, well, if I'm going to pitch him in Game 5 anyway, I'm not going to pitch him in Game 4. I might as well then adhere to his wishes, pitch him in Game 2. That way he's on normal rest instead of extra rest for Game 5.
What about Carrasco?
Well, that I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, Carrasco was great in Game 3. He went tit for tat with Tanaka.
He had a great season, Carrasco.
I mean, and I don't know if Carrasco would have went on short rest either. So, I mean, the Game 4 starter would have been one of the guys on short rest or Josh Tomlin, and I guess he didn't really want to start Josh Tomlin. Bauer, I mean, you saw nothing last night. He was emptying the tank in the third inning when they yanked him, and then Judge, turned the fastball on him, and that was it for Mr. Bauer. But it's a good question. I mean, again, Kluber will have normal rest now tomorrow instead of extra rest. I guess there are some pitchers that are so finicky and they're so they're so adapted to their routine that it can't be upset. And God forbid we have an extra day's rest. Otherwise, we have a nice excuse as to why we stunk. But Tanaka though loves the extra rest. You give him all the rest in the world, he's like, please give me more rest. And he was great in Game. I mean, Tanaka we didn't mention yet. Tanaka, how about his performance in Game 3? Just phenomenal. I mean, the
game. It was an amazing game. My favorite game of the series.
Oh, it was great. I mean, it was drama. I mean, the pitcher. Those pitchers duel sometimes. I mean, especially in the playoffs, they can just be as dramatic, if not more dramatic, than higher scoring games. I mean, it was.
Because you're on when you see the two guys who when they're on, they have as good a stuff as anybody in the league.
Every pitch, Matt. Right? You feel like every pitch.
Exactly. You are locked. You don't want to miss a pitch. When the game is 5-2, you can look away from the TV for a bit here and there. Okay, right. Well, there's only on base. Whatever. I'll miss an at bat here or there to do something else. But in a game like that, you do not want to miss a pitch. Like starting in like the 4th, 5th inning, when you see that the batters are getting weak contact, and the guys are just dialed in, yeah. And so, sure enough, the bird is the word coming through off of Andrew Miller. Unbelievable, lefty on lefty, takes him deep and proves to be the game winner. Just a phenomenal game.
Yeah, bird is the word, and bird was the word for one of our earlier episodes talking about the amazing Greg Bird and how many home runs was he going to hit this year. He was going to be the number 3 hitter. Oh, he's so amazing. Oh, and then he goes away. He goes 6 for 60, gets injured, and everybody's like, oh, he stinks, dump him. Let's move on to another first baseman. And then he makes his resurgence in September, and look at him now. I mean, had the home run in Game 2, had the game winner in Game 3. He's pumped up. He's running around the bases, bumping his fists. And, I mean, that was a terrific game. Tanaka, did he have, like, any pitches that were above the knees in that game? It seemed like every pitch was the slider that was going down or the split finger that was dropping down and baffling the Indian hitters the whole game. And what's amazing also is the home run that was robbed. Who was it that hit it? Lindor by Judge. I think Lindor hit it, right? Yep. As soon as he hit that ball, I just pointed up, pop up. Who's getting it? Is that the second baseman? Is that Judge going to come in into shallow right field and catch the ball? Instead, the ball carries to the wall, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this cannot be a home run. Another typical pop up Yankee Stadium home run. Luckily, Judge was able to get under it, make the catch, and the Yankees were on their way with the victory after Chapman gets the 5 outs. I didn't like taking Tanaka out actually. Apparently, and according to Girardi, Tanaka said he was done. I take him at his word, I guess. If he said he was done, he was done. I just didn't understand. At the time, at least, I didn't get it. Let him pitch the 8th. If he's gonna let a guy on like Robertson did, and then just yank him anyway for Chapman, why even bother with Robertson? But neither here nor there. Yankees win that game. Again yesterday they knock around Bauer. Good performance from Severino. Game 5 tomorrow night. The wily vet CC Sabathia against the most likely Cy Young Award winner this year, at least anyway, in Corey Kluber, who already has a Cy Young under his belt. Yankees have to come into the game with confidence, knowing that they just knocked them around in Game 2. You figure that you'll have a similar lineup for the Yankees. Maybe they make a change at DH. We'll see. Maybe Holiday gets in the game. Maybe it's Ellsbury. Maybe it's Headley. It could be any of the 3, honestly. I don't know what direction Girardi's going to go in. The top 4 you figure will be the same, or top 5 you figure will be the same. We'll see if he does the lefty-righty breakup again or if he puts Sanchez back in the 3-hole. Not that it matters, whatever. But the question everybody wants to know is, how long of a leash will CC have? Is he going to yank him after 70 pitches again? If he gets into trouble in the 3rd inning and it's 2-0 Indians, does he yank him and bring in Green or something like that? We'll have to wait and see on that. I'm sure it'll be all hands on deck except for Severino for tomorrow night, including Sonny Gray, who has not seen the mound since Game 1. But hopefully the formula is very simple. Hopefully it's CC for 5, and then you have mix and matching of Green and Robertson, Betances if you must, although I'm sure he'll be at the bottom of the totem pole on that, and then Chapman for if you need maybe a 6-out save for Chapman tomorrow night. Who knows? But the Yankees, hey, if they win the game, I mean, you'll. I never could have in a million years envisioned that they would go this far. If they lose, you tip your hat and say great year, even though it's the Yankees and they never look at it like that. But
well, you tipped your cap already. I mean, you should have for a Yankee fan. So
yeah,
anything else is bonus. Yep. All right. Well, look, we'll enjoy the game, and maybe we'll have an ALCS to start breaking down with the Yankees in it. Houston being the other team and eliminating the Red Sox, taking care of business there.
Yeah, took care of business is right. I mean, they were the best. Oh my God, they were just.
Yeah, I mean, Altuve just came out firing 3 home runs in the first game and kind of just set the tone for the series.
What a phenomenal player he is! Oh my God, Altuve is such a tremendous player. How about that Verlander guy? Mr.
Little rise in the lip there, and down making quick work at the Diamondbacks, and the Cubs are ahead of the Nationals 2-1, and the Nationals rotation is just a little banged up with Scherzer having a hamstring issue. Now Strasburg is not going to go. The game was postponed tonight for Game 4. And they're actually going with Tanner Roark tomorrow, although Strasburg would have been on normal rest. However, it turns out Strasburg, surprise, apparently under the weather because of mold in Chicago. And so he's going to go Game 5 if the Nationals can pull it out.
That's what that headline was about the mold? Is that what that was?
I just read it a few minutes ago in a article. I don't know. I didn't see any headlines. I just, reading down deep about what Strasburg's deal is, and just under the weather, and he will be going in Game 5
I think it's mold.
There is one.
I think that's what Dusty said. I think it's mold. Oh my God! How is Strasburg not starting tomorrow? I mean, my God! So they're going to go with Tanner Roark, even
season's on the line for the Nationals. Yep.
What do you do? Paint chips or something?
All right. So let's move on to some football. So. When we last had a show, the Giants were 0-2, right? And their offense was just putrid, just completely out of sync. And since then, their offense has been okay. It's been a little bit better. I mean, look, against the Chargers, 3 receivers going down, 2 of them for the season, three of them for the season in the same game for the Giants.
Three wide receivers down for the year in the same game. That is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable.
Yes.
Mr. Hip.
Nail. Yeah, right.
All right, Mr. Hip. Thought we lost you for a second there.
Right. Yes. Well, I was just so excited talking about the Giants.
Yes, well, we cannot contain our excitement when it comes to the Giants. Oh boy! So my
in your Super Bowl prediction, we got to re-listen to that episode of the Jets Giants preview and Hey, look, my Super Bowl preview is not looking too good either with the Cardinals and the Titans. So you make fun of me too.
It's a topsy-turvy league indeed, and right now it has just been. I mean, the NFL has just had a very tumultuous season. With obviously everything that's been going on with the national anthem controversy, and like you mentioned earlier, Roger Goodell sending out a letter to team owners, hey, we might be losing money, we have to do something, we got to get out in front of this thing, we don't want to lose any more money with the NFL. But I mean, we'll start with the Giants for right now and their disaster of a season, which is really it's just fair to say that the season is basically over. Who would have thought that the team sucking for Sam would be the Giants and not the other team? that occupies Giants Stadium along with the Giants, or sucking for Josh, or sucking for the other guy, whatever his name is. And I mean, it's just unbelievable when you think about the talent that this Giant team boasted. And I mean, everybody in that organization was, they weren't just looking to make the playoffs and, hey, hopefully we win our division, we make the playoffs and go on a run. No. Their aspirations this year was Super Bowl. That's what this team expected out of themselves because of the talent that they have. You think about their defense, which has been awful. We talked about, we were here, our last show was after they lost to Detroit. And I was saying, well, defense was okay, not great, but, they'll gradually improve. Like last year, they'll get better. And instead, they've gone the opposite way. They have fallen off a cliff. Their run defense, which was terrific last year, was top 5 in the league. This year, they're 29th against the run. They're 26th overall in total defense. They're not sacking the quarterback. 8 total sacks on the year. Vernon's been hurt. JPP has had games where he's been non-existent this year after having a great preseason. Damon Snacks Harrison, where did he go? Landon Collins, All-Pro last year. Another haven't
heard about his name at all, really. I feel like.
Oh yeah, nothing. I mean, he forced the fumble against the Eagles in the third game. Other than that, has made really very little impact. They had their first interception of the season this past week against the Chargers. Had 0 coming into the game. They got 1 this past week. It just tells you how bad their defense has been. Blowing leads in the fourth quarter. But I mean, last week, the defense did not play well, but obviously the Chargers got the ball deep in their territory for the game-winning touchdown.
Well, the sack on Eli. I mean,
right.
Which how he lets go of that ball.
Oh, shame on Eli.
It was a careless fumble. I mean, he was getting tackled, but he just dropped the ball as he was going down. It wasn't even punched out of his hand.
Nope. He fell on top of the defender. No excuse. You got to hold on to the ball there. That was a terrible play by Eli. But I mean, right now it's about the broader themes with the Giants and just their complete. I mean, it seems like they have internal strife now, internal discord. The coach is clueless, has no idea. I mean, you listen to his press conferences. This is a guy that has absolutely no idea. I mean, he has absolutely no clue. He has no idea what to say. He has no idea what to do. This is a coach right now that's in way over his head. And honestly, I think coming into the year, he was a little arrogant. I think a little hubris was built into this team's approach this year. They thought they can show up and win 11 games like last year. Like, hey, well, look how good we are. We're just going to show up and win games. And they learned that you can't, that it's just not that simple, that you can't act that way. You can't comport yourself in that manner. And the coach is learning that very, very hard lesson that a lot of NFL coaches learn at a very, very tender age, as Ben McAdoo is, and he has really. I mean, this is it for him. I mean, the team is that the owners are watching. They're going to say, "How are you going to respond to this? How are you going to motivate this team? How are you going to try and right the ship and see if you can salvage the season?" And if the ship keeps sinking, if the ship be sinking like Michael Ray Richardson said all those years ago, and it continues to sink, and they finish. I mean, let's just say that the season goes as badly as it's going right now, and they show you no signs of improvement or no signs of life. They're going to have a decision to make with the coach. And you can say 2 years, how can you do that? Well, when you feel that the coach is just not ready for the job, that's when you can make the move. Jerry Reese, I think, is going to be an automatic goner at the end of the year because he neglected the offensive line. The Eli Apple pick right now, and Eli Apple, who got benched and made it very known that he was angry and pissed off that he was benched for the first few series of the game by Coach McAdoo. And he was actually coming off of a better performance against Tampa, but he has also struggled mightily this year. And that draft pick right now of Eli Apple over Laramie Tunsil, all because he decided to smoke a little weed, with his bong and his gas mask or whatever that he had on, and the Giants pass up on that player for Eli Apple just because of that. I mean, it looks terrible right now. And right now, the Giants they're just a team in turmoil. And, I mean, you hear about guys leaving the field early. You hear about, guys mouthing off. You hear about, finger pointing in the locker room. The defense pointing fingers at the offense, pointing fingers at the head coach. I mean, right now, it's bad in Giant land. And usually you don't see this type of usually don't see this from the Giants. They're usually a well-run organization, and they keep all those matters internal. Although, McAdoo doesn't tell you anything in the press conferences. Everything is, we'll handle internally. Obviously, the Beckham nonsense, which, we didn't get a chance to get to in the Philadelphia game, and Obviously, now he's out for the year, and it was a terrible injury. I mean, just watching him on that play, I mean, just you saw his leg and get caught underneath the defender, and it was just gruesome to watch it. And to see him go down, and immediately the Charger defenders were like, get out here, to the Giant training staff. And right now, I mean, he was the Giant offense last year for a good portion of the year. And now it's Roger Lewis and Travis Randolph to the rescue for the Giants, and maybe Evan Ingram if you have him in fantasy. And maybe
you said that usually you don't see this from a Giant organization. Well, how about 4 years ago? I mean, the Giants started 0-6, and I don't think the hopes were as high for that team. I don't remember what the over under was for wins. Probably not as high as it was this year. They actually rallied back and they finished 7-9 that season. Finished 7-9 this year. I don't know. Clearly, they have huge offensive problems now. I don't know how they're going to move the ball consistently. So I don't care who's out there receiver. It's like their receiving core just went from one of the deepest with with Beckham seemingly somewhat healthy to now probably being the worst in the league. Easily.
Roger Lewis, number one wide receiver. That says worse in the league, really? Roger Lewis, come on.
I mean, the Chicago Bears have a pretty bad wide receiving core as well. If Sterling Shepard's healthy, then he'll really be put to the test athletically. Nevertheless, look, it's all but over, and New York fans have to turn all their attention to the 3-2 New York Jets.
Unbelievable. So we wrote off the Jets and we should have wrote them off. The Jets did not deserve at all any kind of benefit of the doubt after they lost to the Raiders. So the Raiders how about the Raiders losing 3 games in a row and looking awful in the process too. But the Jets, I mean, how about those New York Jets? Solid quarterback play.
Yep. Solid running game.
Defensive play.
Yes.
Solid running game.
Yes.
2 bad teams and one team that I think is trending up, at least in Jacksonville. But at the same time, still 3 wins. Now you get the Pats at home. Let's see if Jet fans can have a little bit of fun this week.
Yeah. Be
competitive against the Pats. Pull out a win. I mean, now all of a sudden we're talking about what could be for this Jets team. How excited are you for the New York Jetropolitans against the Pats this upcoming weekend?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves here and get overconfident. I mean, this is not a warm and fuzzy type of feeling team. They don't give you that. I don't see how you really think anytime you turn it on that you feel really confident that they're going to win the football game, no matter who they're playing. I mean, they just they don't possess any really level of dominance. So that being said, the Patriots defense, they've had a long week to try to figure something out defensively. The Patriots have just been giving up oodles of yardage, I think most in the league to this point.
Yeah, secondary's been atrocious. I mean, the whole defense has been bad, but that secondary's been atrocious.
It's been horrible. It's been really, really bad. And so, look, the Jets aren't really built to be a juggernaut offensive team, but they do have a good running game. Now however, it looks like they're going to be down their number 1 and 2 running backs. However, this kid Elijah McGuire looks like he has some skills. So will Elijah McGuire be the difference maker in a game against the Patriots? Who would have thought that for week 5? But here, week 6. But here's something that I wanted to point out.
Mr. Hip, a little technical difficulty again.
A coworker shared with me today about the Jets, or more so about who's no longer with me. Hello?
Yep.
Yes?
Yep. Oh, so we had a little technical difficulty. Yeah, right.
Okay. So I had a coworker point something out to me about Jet players who are no longer with the team and what they have done so far this year. Very interesting. So let me run through a quick list here in no particular order. Nick Folk, the most important position on the team, has missed 5 field goals and 2 extra points, and he, I believe, was put on IR by Tampa Bay for some reason. They kept him on the roster instead of just getting rid of him. Brandon Marshall, 139 yards on the season. Eric Decker, 104 yards. Hey, 104 yards on the season for Eric Decker.
That is amazing. I thought Eric Decker was going to have a good year.
David David Harris. How many snaps do you think he's played this year?
What team is he on now? Is he on the Pats? He's on the Pats,
I'm not even sure. Let's see.
Was he?
David Harris. I think he is.
Is he on the Pats? They usually both teams will do that. One.
Yes. David Harris is on the Patriots.
Scoops him up. Like
Danny David Harris
cut by the Jets, scooped up.
He's played 7 total snaps, David Harris.
No,
this year.
Really? Oh my God! What was the point?
Sheldon Richardson. The list goes on. Sheldon Richardson. Through 4 games.
That trade.
7 tackles, 0 sacks.
Wow.
Darrelle Revis.
0 snaps.
Revis. Did you get so right? Darrelle Revis, unemployed. Nick Mangold, unemployed. Ryan Clady, unemployed. Calvin Pryor.
Calvin Pryor. He was on the Jets last year.
Released from the Browns, claimed by the Jaguars, and put on IR.
I didn't know Pryor was on the. Wow, Pryor was on the Jets for that long. How about that?
Marcus Gilchrist, backup safety for the Texans, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. Where's he?
Oh yeah, that's right, Fitzy. Where's Fitzy again now? He's Tampa. He's Tampa.
He's the backup for Tampa. That's right.
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting. You go through this list, and some of these players are like, "Why the hell did the Jets get rid of these guys?" And I mean, maybe there is some method to what seemed to be madness. Was McCagnon actually did he actually have some method to this madness, or is this just pure coincidence that all of these players? You really think so?
I mean, you look at the list of guys. I mean, Mangold was he was by design. I mean, he was retiring. Revis, they weren't bringing him back. Obviously, he was too expensive.
I know that some of these are pretty easy to dismiss, but Sheldon Richardson, Eric Decker, Brandon Marshall.
Well, they were ready. They didn't want any big name veterans. They didn't want any big money veterans. That's why they dumped.
Right, but is there a method to that? That's what I'm wondering. Like, was that maybe the
method was to suck for Sam, and now they can't even do that. Now they're winning games. They're 3-2. So that was the method was to suck, and now they're not sucking. So it tells you there.
Well, I mean, look, if the method was to suck, Christian Hackenberg would be starting. If that was truly the case, he would be starting and getting the experience that you need to see if he truly is capable, instead of using a 37-year-old quarterback who is unlikely to play every game this year, but he gives them the best chance to win. So maybe when you talk about the front office, that's what you mean, that they, I guess, wanted to tank without telling anyone, although we all wanted to know it. But Todd Bowles has this team playing football, and they're playing. Look, they got destroyed in Oakland. And I look at the schedule.
It's going to get a lot harder.
It definitely gets a lot harder.
They have Denver.
However, I will say, look.
And they have the Pats twice.
They have 3 out of the last 4 games are 3 of the season. At Denver, at New Orleans, hosting the Chargers, at a brutal 4-game stretch to end the season. Up until that point, look, they go their away games are at Miami, at Tampa Bay, and then the aforementioned at Denver, at New Orleans, at New England. But the other 2 away games could be winnable. Tampa's a good team, but I don't know if the Jets are still playing, disciplined football. They could be competitive. They have the 4 games they have to host are Atlanta, not going to be easy, but Atlanta's not the same team on the road. Buffalo. Now without Charles Clay, without Jordan Matthews, I mean, that team is just basically a Sean McCoy. Then they have to host I'm jumping around the schedule, but just naming the teams. They host the Panthers and the Chiefs back-to-back.
They play the AFC South and the NFC South and the AFC West, and you have a lot of good teams in those divisions. And and they have the 2 games against the Pats. So I mean, they had their cupcakes earlier in the season. I mean, Miami, we'll see what they are. But the Mets, the Jets, dominated Miami. And then obviously the Brownies are the Brownies. So we know that you're not going to go crazy over that win. But hey, look, there's still 3 wins. I mean, you see how hard wins are to come by. Just ask the Giants as they're sitting winless through 5 games for 5 weeks. So, hey, look, it'll be fun. It'll be fun this week if you're a Jet fan. Maybe the Jets can give you a thrill if they can be competitive against the Pats. Maybe have a chance to win at the end of the game. Obviously, if they pull out the game, I mean, now all of a sudden Jets are in first place and the Pats are behind the Jets. They're coming up the rear of the Jets. When was the last time you can say that after some weeks? I mean, years and years and years. So, I give the coaching staff credit. I give Josh McCown a world of credit, who has really just been such a great calming influence for that team. The savvy vet who has never been a great player, but just knows how to play the position, can make plays when he needs to. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to take you down the field in a minute and make a perfect pass in the corner of the end zone to Devontae Adams like Mr. Rogers did against the Cowboys again. I mean, that guy is just unreal.
Well, we say it's unbelievable, but at a certain point, you say you expect him to do that.
You expect it, yeah. Now it's just like if he doesn't do it, you're shocked. It's like, oh, he didn't take the team all the way down the field in a minute to win the game. What the hell's the matter with him? I mean, that guy is just unreal. But the veteran, the young kids are playing well. The safeties have been. I mean, you hear rave reviews about Adams. Both safeties have played well. I mean, the nonsense about, this reminds me of the Seattle defense from their infancy. Let's relax with that. Well, because what? They had the safeties. Is that why? Okay, well, let's stop with the comparisons. Let build the defense. So let's see if this defense continues to come together. We'll see how they do this week against the Pats. The Pats, can still be a dink and dunk offense, but they do have Brandon Cooks who can stretch the field. So it'll be a good test for the Jet defense. Obviously, you mentioned the running game. No Slote and potentially no Bilal. No Bilal this week. He's hurt too.
That's right. He's banged up. Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, it'll be a fun game to watch. The Giants, they're basically done. It's like wake me up if they win 5 games in a row. They go to Denver this week to play the Broncos in that environment on Sunday night. I mean, against that pass rush, against that tandem at running back, as the Giants have been gashed on the ground this year. That has the makings of an ugly game, and it's like one of those avert your eyes. That's how bad that game could potentially be. You know what I would say though? I want Eli Manning to complete every pass, even if they're 2-yard passes, just so we don't have to hear those idiots in Denver go incomplete every time there's an incomplete pass. Drives me insane. It's so stupid. But
I'm not happy that you just pointed it out because I didn't know that existed, and now I'm going to hear it and be equally as
no. You don't hear them go every time there's an incomplete pass. The idiots and the fans go in the stands go incomplete. Oh my God, it's brutal. It's almost as bad as the wave. It's just so stupid. It's like, well, what's the point? Anyway, so what they get like a 4-yard gain? How come they don't go 4-yard gain? Now that has the makings of a disaster written all over it. Some interesting games though this week, and I mean, like I said, the NFL has been very topsy-turvy this year. I mean, games that have had crazy finishes, teams that you wouldn't have expected would be good or good, teams that you would expect would be good or bad, and vice versa. I mean, how about Jackson? How about the job Doug Marrone has done with that team? I mean, I know the Jacksonville lost to the Jets this year, but how about what Doug Marrone has done with that Jaguar team and hiding their awful quarterback Blake Bortles, who is so bad.
Talk about hiding.
Who is just saying, just don't kill me, please. I have no choice but to play you. I'm going to run the ball as much as I possibly can with Fournette. I'm going to have our all-world corner shut down the other team, which they just made Ben Roethlisberger look like a jerk in Pittsburgh last week, and everybody's questioning Roethlisberger. How about those Jaguars? And then how about looking at that AFC South, which right now, with Houston now losing 17 guys on defense, with the Colts still waiting for Andrew Luck to come back, with the Titans, your Super Bowl pick, looking at times terrible, and then you have Andy Reid's Kansas City Chiefs as right. They're the only undefeated team at this point now. Are they the last undefeated team? So Correct. There you go. How about the coaching job that Andy Reid has done with that Chief team? I mean, he is just an offensive. He is just an offensive genius. I mean, the way he game plans, the way he calls the plays out. I mean, he is just, and we saw this in Philly as a Giant fan, seeing him in Philly all those years. What a tremendous job he has done. I mean, Kareem Hunt,
Alex Smith having a great year. They took the.
And my boy Travis Kelce, of course, as well, who actually might be out this week because of a concussion after having 8 catches in the first half last week. Almost cost me a fantasy win, but I was able to hold on there because of Will Fuller V. How about Will Fuller V for me?
Yep. Well, yeah, Alex Smith. I feel like he just decided to be a little more aggressive this year, and not just your 2-yard passer that he typically is. And he's having a great year so far. So, yeah, it's definitely a weird year in the NFL, with the Jaguars leading their division, like you said. The Titans obviously losing Mariota and then having Castles play, has, you can see the drop off in their offense. So they need Mariota back to potentially remain competitive there. Yeah. So games this week. You want to pick 2? Do you have the lines in front of you?
Yeah, we'll do a little picks. Well, let's see. So, let's see, NFL. Let's see, what are the lines at this week? All right, so the current lines.
I got to go with the Jets getting 9.5 at home. You got to. I don't care if it's all. You know what? I think I don't think the Patriots off. I think it's the Patriots offense is not quite as good this year as it has been in previous years. Tom Brady is showing a little age. He has a bad played through in the past. I think the Jets defense keep them honest, and it's going to be a relatively close game. I'm not saying the Jets win this, but I like the Jets getting 9.5.
Yeah, right. All right, so let's see. I'll pick a game here. The Giants are 11.5-point dogs to Denver. Oof. I cannot touch that game at all. I'm tempted to. Stupid thing there. And why don't you do your other one, and I'll come back with my 2.
I'll take Detroit at New Orleans. Detroit getting 5.
Yeah, why is that?
This is the lip stall tactic while he still needs to decide the other 2 games he's going to pick.
Of course.
Otherwise, he wouldn't ask why. He would just say if he agreed or disagreed, as opposed to questioning what my rationale is. I still like Detroit's offense. They have a running game now, and they're gonna I think stick to that and make and get behind the passing game, but not have to be super aggressive there. While New Orleans can move the ball at home, I still like Detroit's defense. Cam Newton carved him up last weekend, who apparently has, berated a female reporter by being careless with his word choice during a press conference.
He was a jackass. He was a complete jackass.
The fact that the words came out made it look horrible. My guess is he didn't mean to be so sexist, but you can't.
No, I think
you can't apologize for or you can't come up with excuses for that. Anyway, I'll take Detroit in New Orleans getting 5 points.
All right. I got one game here. Chicago at Baltimore. Baltimore laying 6.5 at home against Chicago. You know what? Rookie quarterback Trubisky looked terrible again. And the Vikings, they didn't even play that well on defense. Trubisky as a rookie quarterback, he is going to be in way over his head. That's a good Baltimore defense. I know that
short week.
Yeah, it's short week 2. Baltimore has a good secondary. I think they're going to cause a few turnovers. I think they're going to come. They're going to come up with some couple of exotic blitzes that they're going to throw at Trubisky. They're going to throw a few different things. He's not going to recognize at him. I think they're going to score a few points on defense. Maybe they return something maybe they return a fumble or an interception for a touchdown or something. But I think that their offense is going to click a little bit this week. Baltimore at 6.5. I'm jumping all over that. I think that to me that game has like 27-10 written all over it. So give me Baltimore laying 6.5 against the Bears at home.
What if the Bears run that triple handoff play every play on offense?
Well, Tariq Cohen was the darling of the fantasy world after week 1. Where did he go? What was it? 1 catch for -4 yards last week after it seemed like he was going to average like 8 catches every game.
Things change. Yeah, you get these guys that come out of nowhere and have big games, and then people think that they're set up to have great years, and then they fall off the cliff just as quickly. It's
Kevin Ogletree. He's amazing. I know it. Yeah. Well, I think you'll see him incorporated more into the offense. My hope is that Andre Ellington keeps up his role in the offense now that the Cardinals.
I don't know. Well, the Cardinals traded for AP today, so
they did.
I think they're going to make a more concerted effort to run the ball because they've just been so pass happy to a fault. Their offensive line is awful, but Chris Johnson was averaging under 3 yards a carry this year. AP in his limited opportunities did not show anything positive on tape so far this year. And I think going back to AP's last 9 games, he has not averaged 4 yards a carry or more. So after a while,
we said he was a terrible fit in that team, that offense. It made no sense that they signed him. I bet Peyton, when they signed him, was probably like, "What the hell are you signing this guy for? I have no use for him." And now he's gone. So
anytime he was in the game, it pretty much was an assumption they were going to run the football, and it just was a giveaway. They did a couple play action passes, which didn't end up working. But with Kamara emerging as a good 1A to Ingram 1B, or vice versa, remains to be seen how that plays out. But Kamara, because of his success, it was an easy call for the Saints to make at this point of the year. Whereas, at the beginning of the year, with rookies, you don't know what they're going to show. So it could have been Ingram and Peterson's backfield, but clearly not needed to be the case now.
You're right. And my second pick, and I wanted to, I'm looking at that Pittsburgh, Kansas City. I mean, I can't believe Kansas City is only favored by 4.5. I would have thought they'd be favored by 6.5 at least against Pittsburgh.
I think it's credit to the Jaguars defense, maybe more than anything, for that, because this is a road game for Pittsburgh too. Yeah. Whereas Pittsburgh got destroyed at home by Jacksonville, so I think I guess Vegas is figuring it's a blip on the radar for Pittsburgh, and Kansas City hasn't exactly been a defensive juggernaut this year. So although the over-under is 46, it's nothing crazy.
Yeah, well, but as you mentioned the Jaguars, so that is who I'm going to take. I'm going to roll. I just said Doug Marrone's done a great job with that Jacksonville Jaguar team, so that is going to be my second pick. Jaguars, 2.5-point favorites at home against the Los Angeles Rams. First off, I don't like the Rams. Their offense has been good this year, but they've also been inconsistent at times. They have not gotten Sammy Watkins involved in that offense at all. Yes, I understand that
they have to change that. I mean, he can't. Look, Jared Goff is maybe the most improved player in the NFL this year. To this point,
coached. But he hasn't the worst coach in the league coaching him.
But I felt like his numbers were a bit deceiving. It's still a fairly conservative offense that runs through Gurley, and Gurley, I think they need to stretch the field though. The Rams need to stretch the field and get Sammy Watkins involved. He was early. He had a big game early on, and that's where I thought this offense maybe is going to go places this year and do some damage. But it's kind of swallowed up into a hole a bit, and they've been really struggling. So, and Jacksonville's, they just hosted Seattle, but going to Jacksonville's their toughest defensive matchup all year.
Yeah, I like the Jaguars in this game. I have a tough time taking the Jaguars as a favorite ever, no matter who they're playing, and especially the Rams that have at times look good on offense. Beating up on Dallas, but last week they definitely were stifled a little bit at home. And I expect that Jacksonville is going to play well defensively. I do not see the Rams scoring a lot of points on that Jacksonville.
Well, how come there's no credit to Tom Coughlin? All credits to just the coach?
Yeah, I give my boy Tom credit too. I mean, I think they've changed the culture there, but I really think Marone is a underrated coach. I thought he did a really good job in Buffalo. I think the Jets actually were foolish in passing up on him a couple of years ago when they were interviewing him. I think he is a really good coach. He ruffles some feathers. He doesn't get along with everybody. At least that's the idea that you get. He's a little abrasive as a personality, but he gets results, and that Jacksonville team is playing well. They're running the ball. They're playing really good defense. I think that Jacksonville team is going to contend for a playoff spot this year. They're not gonna, I don't think they're going to win 11 games, but hey, we've seen crazier things happen. I think this week, though, they're going to beat the Rams. So give me the Jaguars giving away 2.5 points at home against the Rams. Those are my two picks. Two home teams for me this week after my terrible picks a few weeks ago, which we won't rehash again.
Lock it up. Okay, so do you have a hipster moment of Zenith this week?
Well, I think the hipster moment of Zenith has to. Well, is it the Islanders' beginning of the season? Is that our collective moment of Zenith? Is the start of the NHL season? And the Las Vegas Golden Knights playing their first home game. How about that? Yes, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And, of course, the New York Islanders back in action. Yes, we have not done a full preview, but we will incorporate the Islanders and the other team and the other hockey team here as well a little bit throughout the course of the next however many months. But the Islanders off to a 1-1-1 start, so basically 1-2. After coming back to tie the Blues yesterday and then losing in a shootout. Played awful the first night. Were terrible on every phase and every facet and every way. And then come back with a strong performance against Buffalo. Joshua Ho-Sang, and we talked about that guy last year. Ups and downs. You're going to roll with those ups and downs. Matthew Barzal, they're counting on to be the second-line center. And their dumpster-fire defense that was very much on display opening night. They benched Dennis Seidenberg. Let's hope he stays riding the bench the rest of the year, hopefully, meaning that there are no injuries and that everybody they're young kids like Pellick and Mayfield, and we'll see if Pulak can get in there, play well. Goaltending, Halak has to be the number one. The guy has to play 50-55 games. Grice can be 1A, back up 1A, whatever you want to classify him as, but I would say the split should be 50-30 or 55-25, something like that for Halak. And if the Islanders if they get solid goaltending and their defense rights itself, I think they'll have enough offense, and they will contend for a playoff spot. And that will be your hipster moment of Zenith as the Islanders maybe do not occupy the basement of the NHL in December. Maybe that'll be the moment of Zenith. All right.
Let's get to November 1st.
Yes, indeed. And
I just noticed. You know what I noticed?
What about the New York Islanders?
The night? No, the Knights. Las Vegas Knights.
Yep. What about?
Yeah. What do you think their 3-letter acronym is? You know, they have like New York Rangers is NYR, Islanders NYI, Detroit DET, Dallas DAL. The Las Vegas Knights.
LGK, Las Vegas Golden Knights. LVK, LVG.
VGK.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, so
but I guess because it's Vegas, so the VG, I guess, and Golden Knights, I guess I see it. It still seems very odd. I don't know. You look at a team name and you want to think of the city. I feel like when you first see it, right?
And it's 4-0. VGK is up 4-0 against Arizona as we speak, and they're 2-0. VGK,
and it's with 8 minutes, and it's
Well, now it's 4-1. Goal, score. So the first game in the deserts of Las Vegas is taking place as we speak, and the New York Islanders will be making a trip out there, I believe, in January. So I think some Islander fans have already planned their Vegas trip for January. I think it's actually Martin Luther King weekend. So for those that have a 3-day weekend, they're planning their Vegas trip to go see the New York Islanders and do some other things in Vegas.
There you go.
All right. And how about the New York Knicks starting a week from Thursday? Who's excited? Oh, yes, the Carmelo-less New York Knicks, as we didn't get a chance to touch on Carmelo. And that saga has finally come to an end, thank God. And we can now move on with our lives and not have to hear about Carmelo anymore.
Phil Jackson's gone. Carmelo's gone.
Yep. Now it's officially Porzingis' team, and apparently the reviews are all the rave in the early going for Porzingis, or maybe not. Maybe they're all terrible, and they're like, yeah, he stinks. What's the matter with him?
Well, I mean, who cares about raves? He had a down year last year, so let's see what happens. And games matter.
And breaking news, for those that you might be thinking WGS, but the World Cup of Soccer, the Soccers 2018, the United States will not be participating in the World Cup in Russia next year. Write it down. That's a great way to build soccer up in this country. The United States will not be participating. They were officially eliminated just a little while ago by Trinidad and Tobago. They will not be participating in the 2018 World Cup in Russia.
So there you have it for the longest hipster moment of zenith of our show's history.
Well, there's your true moment of zenith right there. So that's a great way to build up soccer in this country. It's the only time that people care about soccer is when the World Cup comes around. So now we get to wait till Qatar in 2022. So that's amazing.
Whoops.
Oh, boy. All right. So I guess we got in our little abbreviated Islanders preview there. We'll do more on those guys. And the Yankees tomorrow night. NFL, they continue to kneel before Zod. Star Wars trailer came out. Who was excited? I was. I've seen it 17 times already. I'll have to watch another 17 times for next episode. And with all of that, Yankees tomorrow. Giants will get killed Sunday probably. Jets and Pats this weekend. Who's excited about that? And with all that, that takes us to the final segment. Everybody's favorite, yours and mine. Of course, that would be the Hipster Beer of the Week. And what do you got for us today, Mr. Hip?
Hey, how about another shout out to Hudson Valley Brewery in Beacon, New York, in the heart of the Hudson Valley.
Are you talking about them?
The heart of the Hudson Valley on the east side of the Hudson River, just across from Newburgh. And they've been around the block. They kind of do a good variety. They like to do their fair share of sours. Of course, looking in their IPAs with in farmhouses. And they do an occasional can release every month or so. So I was up there with the family on a weekend trip, and they happened to have a can release, so we stopped by. They actually had sold out of one of the cans, a sour IPA, when we got there 3 hours or so after the release began. But they still had their DDH double IPA called New Mina, brewed with raw wheat, malted oat, and I typed MILF sugar.
Milk sugar.
So milk sugar in the DDH IPA, hopped with Mosaic and El Dorado. You can get their beers on draft in the New York City metropolitan area, perhaps unknown parts, perhaps known parts. And there you go, Hipster Beer of the Week. Enjoy the baseball, enjoy the football, enjoy the hockey, enjoy the basketball, enjoy the soccer. The list goes on. And we'll see you with some more hockey and catching up on everything else. Yes, next week. Rate us on iTunes. Yes.
One last thing, though. I want everybody to join me in congratulating Mr. Hip on the impending arrival of Baby Hip number 2. That's right. Baby Hip number 2 is on the way.
Take some of those to make it happen.
Maybe he could be a guest on our show. Maybe Hip number 2 as soon as he's born. What say you, Mr. Hip?
We'll just do a live show from the hospital.
We can ask Mrs. Hip what she thinks of that. I'm sure she'd be all on board. Hip and Lip live. From the baby boy. Hello. Unknown hospital of Metropolitan New York City. Hello.
All right, until next time. Yes.
Yes. All right.